Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so this is Bhagavad Gita, and I'm going to talk on Bhagavad Gita. So what is this book all about, and why we are so intrigued or interested in this book? Why is everybody all over the globe if they talk about Hinduism, Bhagavad Gita is there? Is it? No, why is it like that? Because you see humanity has always, everybody in the past has always had some basic questions about life. Who am I? Who is God? What is the purpose of my life? What should be my aim? What should be my duty at social level, at personal level, at spiritual level? All these questions. What is death? What happens after death? So all these questions are there, had always been there, and will always be there. But the question is, whom should we get answers to these questions? That's the point. Should we delete all these questions? Is it possible to delete all these questions? That's the first question. It's not possible. At some point of your life, these questions will emerge again, even if you're trying to avoid them now. Maybe in old age. In youth, you might not ask these questions. You might forget. Every child asks these questions, no? What is this universe? What are stars? Prabhupada says in one of his lectures, children ask, what is this stars, mama? What is this moon? What should we do? It's like that. But then as we grow, we are so involved in money, career, friends, we forget. But when we grow old, and we again become lonely, no friends, no girlfriends, you ugly. What do you do with that? You can't do much with that. And you can't see movies, your eyes are weak. You can't dance, you have arthritis. So at that time, when you're lonely, these questions come up. Again, you're sitting in a park and you're thinking, what I'm doing, what I've done. So these questions have to be answered. You have to face them now or sometime other, but you have to face them, maybe in the next life. And then unless you don't solve these questions, you're never going to be satisfied, because these are questions related to your life. These are not questions related to Apple iPhone or gadgets. This is dead matter. This is your life, no? So to whom should we go to ask these questions? Science? Not exactly, because science can give you answers for this physical universe. What about life? Science even doesn't understand what is life. There is no definition of life, by the way, in science. What is the origin of life? Nobody knows. Science can give answers to things which can be understood in a logical framework. Is it? What is gravity? How does a tree grow? Like that. But if you ask science questions about aesthetics, you know aesthetics? Aesthetics means love, qualities, beauty. That's called aesthetics. Science has no idea how to answer those questions. No. If you ask any scientist, what is love? How many quantum molecules are there in love? This doesn't make any sense. No. How do you measure love? What's the instrument? Science has no idea how to even begin to answer these questions. What is love? So, and morality, ethics, what to do with that? Can scientists answer these questions? What you should do with your Apple iPhone? They can give you Apple iPhone. How should you use it? If science could have answered these ethical questions, there would have been no Hitler. Hitler used technology, but in a wrong way, no? So we can use all these things in a bad way or good way, but who is going to decide what is bad, what is good? That's important. You understanding, all of you? You getting my point? Am I fast? No. So science cannot understand everything, first of all. To assume that science can answer everything, that is not science. That is faith. Is it? That is faith. Science can understand everything. How can you prove this? You can't prove this. Is there any mathematical backing to say you can understand everything? First of all, what is everything? If you say science can understand everything, then you should first of all know everything. You see? So if suppose you say I have understood everything, then how do you know that this is everything? Maybe there's more. So because you don't know what is everything, so you cannot understand everything. That's another logic. It's a Colin Gins, he's a philosopher, and he said this: life, some questions will always remain mystery to science. They cannot handle that. So what scientists did to all these questions, what is life, what is death, what is aim of life, what is ethics, what is aesthetics, to all these questions they said, okay, this is for philosophers. We don't care for that. We don't care. We'll give you laptops, we'll give you car, we'll give you whatever you want, but then you go to philosophers to ask, what, or maybe religion. So scientists are not good source to answer these questions, but these questions has to be solved. Is it? If you don't know what is the purpose of your life, you will always be dissatisfied, even if you have cell phones or what. If you don't know who you are, you'll be dissatisfied. No, like for example, if you forget yourself now everybody forgets himself. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? If you forget yourself, what's going to happen? I'm asking you.
You're clueless, looking around everybody's faces.
Why? You have your iPhone? What's the problem? Open your GPS. Open Google. Type who am I? Nothing. You can't do anything. You're lost.
He's already trying.
He's trying, yeah. He's trying. So you will be full of anxieties, no? Even you have, just this moment, you can be full of fear and anxieties. Absolutely. To the point that you can commit suicide. If you don't get, who am I? Come on, in 10 minutes if you don't get answer, you might commit suicide. So that's what Bhagavad Gita says. It begins with a question, who are you? And at the present moment, you don't know who are you. You don't know. So this means you can never be happy. You can never be happy. You can pose yourself to be happy. But if you close your eyes, look inside in your heart, you will feel absolutely lonely. I can 100% guarantee to all of you. But you have never looked inside. That's the problem with you all. You have always looked outside. Okay, Trader Joe, we just went. Maybe some movie, this. So, and whatever we are doing, what's happening? If you try to understand, whatever we are doing to avoid these questions. If you think about this. Because if you start thinking about these questions, and if you don't have answers, you can go mad. If you don't have answers, like Nietzsche, Nietzsche was a big philosopher. You don't know Nietzsche? Your life is waste. What are you doing? What do you know? Katrina Kaif or what? You know. So that's the point, we are involved in some things which are absolutely unnecessary to our life. This is called anarth. Anarth means which has no earth, no value. It adds no value to our life. And we are involved in all those things which are absolutely useless. We have made a dustbin out of us. That's all we are doing. Put all trash, keep on putting trash. Keep on seeing nonsense, keep on hearing nonsense, keep on speaking nonsense. And from where do you get that nonsense? WhatsApp, Facebook, Really, if you want to understand God, just get out of this WhatsApp and Facebook. Unless you're using for devotional things, just get out of this. This is a big trap. You end up wasting. Even a second of bad association will leave an eternal imprint on your mind. Eternal. Not just 2-3 years. Eternally it's there in your mind. Even a second of absolutely nonsense things. How do you get out of your mind then? There's no delete button in mind. In your Apple there might be. In mind there's nothing. So it's always there. And then slowly it will go into your subconscious. It will go down, no? You put a stone in water, it will go down, down, down. And then it will go into your soul. And then you can't do anything. You have to get a rebirth to fulfill that particular desire. You're trapped. So that is why Bhagavad Gita emphasizes a lot on association. On good association and leaving bad association. Both things. Like, you can't just take good association and also take bad association and then expect to advance. You can't advance as fast as you can advance if you focus on both tracks. So yes, we should not go to scientists to ask all these questions. They are not good. They are not good source. They are okay for technology. That's all respects to you, but for these questions, no. So whom to go? You should go to philosophers? No. Philosophers can ask these questions, but they don't have solutions. That's the meaning of philosopher, no? Philosopher means they want to confuse you. That's philosopher. Philosophers will never give you answers, because if you ask any philosopher, okay, what is your experience as a philosopher? You ask any philosopher, you know what's their answer? I am frustrated. Because they have so many questions, but they don't have answers. Because they are trying to think by their own human mind. Human mind cannot understand these answers. They are big questions, no? What is life? What is death? They are big questions which have always been there for eternity. How do you answer these questions just by your 80 years of life, 100 years of life? It's not possible. So philosophers are not good people. If you want to become mad, you can go, but they are frustrated. So whom to go to answer these questions? You can, there's one source which can answer these questions. Those are Vedas. You know Vedas, no? Everybody knows Vedas. So what are Vedas? Vedas is not one book. Krishna says in Gita, Vedas. Do you know any verse where Krishna says about Vedas? Any verse? You don't know?
Through all the Vedas I am to be known?
Yes, 15th chapter, 15th verse. Vedesha sarve aham eva vedyo. Krishna talks about Vedas. Traigunya vishaya Veda. Vedas are talking about material science and spiritual science both. He's talking, but he doesn't tell us what is Vedas in Gita. That is, you're supposed to know this at least 5,000 years back. Is it? But now it's not a common knowledge. So Vedas are collection of books. It is not just one book. If you say, I want to buy Veda, so okay, fine, you have to bring a truck with you. Not a bag. This is like big collection of books. Even if you want to read Padma Puran, which is a section of Vedas, it has around 40 books. Padma Puran. Like, so you have seen Britannica Encyclopedia? Like big volumes? Like that, 40 books, your whole wall will get full. Just by Padma Puran. So Vedas means 4 books: Rigved, Yajurved, Samved, Atharved. And then Vedas have Vedecha, Ramayanecha. There's a verse, what is Vedas? So these are Vedas. And then Vedas have Upanishads in them. Is it? So each Veda is divided into 4 books. Each Vedas. So Brahmanas, Samhitas, Aranyakas and Upanishads. Upanishads are useful to us because they answer these questions. And then, but Vedas are in code form. So to expand on that, you have Puranas, historical accounts, who have read Vedas, who have led their life according to Vedas. No, you need some role model also. No, somebody who have read them. What happened to them? Did they become mad? So there's the Puranas, history. So there are 18 Puranas which are with Vedas, and then there are Upavedas. There are 4 Upavedas: Gandharved, Ayurved, Dhanurved, and Sthapatya-ved. But to understand all of these books, and then there are Panchratra text. So Vedas means 4 books of Vedas: Ramayana, Mahabharata, these are historical accounts, and 18 Puranas and Panchratra. So if you count, there will be around many books. The whole house can be full of Vedas. But the point is how to understand them. To understand Vedas, you need to learn Sanskrit. If you read English translation, Schopenhauer, he's a philosopher. He said Schopenhauer was a German philosopher. He said all English translations of Vedas, which are in fact done by Western people, they go and they do Max Muller and all these people. He said they're all translations are like translations done by kids going to school. You can't translate Vedas into English. It's impossible, because those English doesn't have words to translate those Sanskrit words. You don't have that. You don't have those conceptions in English. Every language is showing culture, no? So you don't have a conception of some conceptions which it is not there in this culture. So it is not there in English. You can't translate. So what to do? You have to learn Sanskrit. And to learn Sanskrit, you need 12 years minimum to learn to read Vedas. And then Vedas are written in codes. Sutra, you know sutras. To decode them, you need a decoding system. You learn the language, but how do you decode? You learn Sanskrit, how do you decode? So for that you need to learn 6 books more. And those are Shiksha, Kalp, Vyakaran, Jyotish, Nirukt, and Chand. So you learn them. For that you need 5 to 6 years more. So 12 plus 6 years, 18 years, 24 hours you have to read. Not just 1 hour daily. You have to practice and read and practice and read. And then you can start reading Vedas. And then when you start reading Vedas, it's all contradictory. In Rig Ved will say praise of Agni. Yajur Ved will say of Indra. And then some Soma. And then you will say what's happening. So to figure out the meaning of that, you need another 20 years. So, and you're dead then. Till the time you figure out how to read this book, Vedas, you're dead. What's the point? And that's why Vedas themselves says, Yastanna Veda Kim Richa Karishyati. If you don't understand the meaning of Vedic sutras, what the sutras will do, it's a waste. It's like a burden on you. So 40 years you prepare yourself, but you don't understand meaning, and you die. You're like a donkey, having burden but not understanding why you're carrying it. You're just carrying. So what to do? That is why Krishna came 5,000 years ago. He spoke this book, Gita. He knew in Kali Yuga, first of all, you don't have so much life. Even if you have intelligence, you don't have life to read Vedas. And second, you don't have even intelligence. No? And time and problems of life. What do you do with that? So he mercifully came and he spoke Gita to all of us. And he summarized all Vedic principles, not details. You can't summarize details of big books, but principles in Bhagavad Gita. So that we can simply read 18 chapters, 700 verses, and at least understand the essence and perfect our life. You might not understand details. You might not understand a whole Ayurveda by reading Gita, no? Ayurveda. But they are principles. If you follow, you can be mentally, spiritually and bodily happy, healthy and satisfied. This book And who has not praised Gita? From Mahatma Gandhi. It is Mahatma Gandhi is there. Yeah. When doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare in me face, and I see not one ray of hope on the horizon, I turn to Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort me. And to American philosophers, Emerson, he is there. I owed a magnificent day to Bhagavad Gita. To Henry David Thoreau, he was a writer. He is also quoted here. In morning I bathe my intellect in philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, in comparison with which a modern word and its literature seems puny and trivial, useless. German philosopher and missionary and scientist to India, Hermann Schuis, he praises Bhagavad Gita as the most systematic philosophy on this planet Earth. So everybody, from Western philosophers, from Indian philosophers, Vedas themselves praise Gita. And this is, and 𝗙𝗲𝗪𝗏 says that fool who wants to get liberation by any kind of practice without understanding the message of Bhagavad Gita, he is fit to be laughed even by a child. Vedas themselves praise. That is why this book is so important, and you can keep on reading this book, keep on reading your whole life, but still you not reach the end. You can't finish this book. It's impossible. Even one verse, if you keep on meditating, you get many meanings out of it. Now Prabhupada has given the basic root meaning of that verse, but when you meditate on that meaning, many more meanings will come. No, it's like every verse is like a flower. So as flower blossoms, you get more smell. No, more smell. Smell is same, but it increases and it expands. So this is Bhagavad Gita. That is why we should read Bhagavad Gita very seriously, very sincerely, because Krishna has done our homework. He has done our homework for us. Otherwise, we would have absolutely no chance to understand God. But the other point is, what is the message of Bhagavad Gita? What is the central message? Okay, this is a concise summary. But what Krishna wants to tell in this, it seems fat, no, to all of you. It's a big book. But anyway, in comparison to Vedas, Sanskrit is also easy. Bhagavad Gita Sanskrit is easy, no? Even if you don't know Sanskrit, you can understand this Sanskrit. So Krishna is, come on. So easy Sanskrit. 𝗪𝗪 कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतायुत्सवा. Simple. It's something you can understand, no? Something. But Vedas, if you read, you will not be able to make head and tails out of it. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It will seem to you as if animals are chanting something. It's a different Sanskrit. It's in South India, you might have heard, no? Samved. You know this. They are chanting Om, O, A. What is this? What is the meaning of that? 𝗪𝗪 कुरुक्षेत्र. Okay, that's good. Bhagavatam is a little difficult. So Gita. So what is the message of Gita? There is one central message of Gita, and don't get confused. Many people will say many things. In America, especially, spirituality is there, not religion. No, people like spirituality. No, they hate religion because they don't understand the meaning of religion. So, is Gita spirituality? What's your answer? No? Yes? How many no? Okay. How many yes? What about others? Thinking? So is Gita spirituality? I'll say answer is both yes and no. It depends how do you define spirituality. So in the context of Western understanding of spirituality, Gita is not spirituality. Western context, spirituality means a feeling, an abstract. You see, that's the understanding of spirituality, no? With no God, some kind of light, that kind of understanding. But that's not what Gita is all about. If you define spirituality as understanding spirit and Supreme Spirit and the connection, then that is spirituality. Okay. If you define spirituality as training your mind and body to come in contact with your spirit, training, not just experience. Western conception is experience. There's no training, no. Just sit like this and feel. If you don't feel, I'll slap you and start feeling. It's like that. It's like that only. Or if you don't feel, give me $1,000 and you'll start feeling. I should feel, I have given money. I am not feeling. My money is gone. Okay, yes, yeah. So that's madness actually. So spirituality means training. That's Prabhupada uses this word training. It's training. You're training your mind, body, actions, words, thoughts in such a way so that you can come in contact with yourself and God. And training needs time, no? Just like training mridanga, it needs time. Training needs, you have to be sincere in your practice, otherwise you are not trained. So that's spirituality. Okay. Is Bhagavad Gita religion? What's your answer?
Yes.
Maybe again yes and no. It depends how you define religion. If you define religion as ism, Hinduism, Muslim or Islam or Christianity, then it's not religion. But if you define religion as duty, Prabhupada defines that duty, dharma. What is a duty at the level of society? What is duty at the level of personal? What is your personal duty? What you should do with yourself? What is your duty at the level of soul? Then that Gita tells you. So that's a religion in that context. Is Gita science? What do you say?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes and no. Yeah. Now you answer. The trick. Yeah. So no, in the sense that if science says we can understand everything and there is no God, then no. Science, some of the scientists, they are atheistic, no. We don't believe, we can't see this, that. Then no, of course. But the point is, scientists are dogmatic nowadays, no, because I went to a conference and I asked this. There was one scientist giving seminar on Big Bang. So I preached to scientists. So he was giving on Big Bang, and one student asked. So he was telling everything began from Big Bang. You know Big Bang, no, all of you? You know Big Bang? What is the source of creation? There was something. Something means, something you have to body something. You don't know what is there. So there was something, and somehow it exploded. And that, from that explosion, something came. And then that something became something else. And then after 8 seconds, that something became energy. By some process. And then that energy became matter by some process. And then somehow everything came. And then somehow we came. This is Big Bang. That is Big Bang. Frankly, that is Big Bang. You have to fill gaps. But the point is, student asked that scientist. Actually, he was a Nobel Prize winner.
The scientist?
Yeah. Vikram Singh. So he asked him, okay, so you say everything began from Big Bang. So who banged the Big Bang? It's a normal question. Who banged the Big Bang? So he said, you know what he said? He said, this question is not allowed. He said this.
Out of syllabus.
Because it is a metaphysical question and we don't deal with this. But that's stupidity. You have to start either with mud or dead things or something what you don't know, or you have to start with some intelligence. For that you need faith. Is it? You need faith. It's not a question of science, no? Okay, we start with something. We start with God. What's the problem? Even you can't prove that initially there was something. You didn't see. You're speculating. Okay, we also didn't see how it began, but we have authority of Vedic scriptures and many saints who realized this, and this knowledge was revealed to them. So what's the problem in understanding? That Prabhupada used to tell this logic. So that's the idea. So science, Bhagavad, in that context, it is not, we don't accept science. But if you take science as a open-minded venture to understand reality, scientists are not open-minded, no? Okay, no, we don't believe. Why? We don't like God. So that's not a good thing. At least you have to be open to possibilities. So in that context, if you understand, take Bhagavad in science in the context of, okay, there is matter, there is consciousness, soul, there has to be some life going on, no? In that context, Gita is science. Gita gives you scientific principles of life. There is dead body, there is brain, there is consciousness. So on Thursday, that university, I'll speak on consciousness. And it is very simple to understand. We are not this body. It is very simple. Even a child can understand. But big scientists cannot. They cannot. So, in that context, it's Gita. A scientific process for self-realization. For understanding absolute truth. Okay. So, what is the message of Gita? Can anybody tell me? What is the central message of Gita? Okay, good. Okay, can you say in one line English?
Yeah, like just leave all the religion and surrender on to Him, means Krishna. So that we can go back to home, back to God.
Okay, good. Can anybody tell the message of Gita in a more precise way? This verse is the central message, Prabhupada says.
Understand the purpose of life.
Okay.
Manmana Bhavan Bhakti.
I'm asking, can you understand this verse? 𝗙𝗲𝗃 𝗪𝗲𝗀𝗀. You are speaking translation.
Have faith in
But what is hidden in this?
Do your duty but don't expect.
That's not a central message. That's a principle.
reject everything, just surrender on to Krishna.
Reject what?
Reject whatever we are following, like
Abandon all
anything, like
religion.
science or
Serving
anything.
and the love.
Okay, now you're coming to that point. Rejection is not the message. Rejection cannot be the message, because rejection is a negative thing, no? Message should also have positive thing. So, surrender. But the concept of surrender in Gita is very different from the concept what we understand. Surrender generally means you lose your freedom. No? Huh?
Surrender generally means giving up something.
You lose something. And surrender also means like a Hitler, no? Surrender. Americans do not like this word surrender. You know this? You're talking to Americans, and if you surrender unto God, they'll say, come on, get lost. Surrender? They hate this, because they have experienced popes and all this surrender. So, here surrender doesn't mean surrender out of fear. That's my point. Here surrender means surrender out of love. You understanding? So central message of Gita is that you should love God and be loved by Him. That's the message of Gita. It's simple. And this is there in this verse. Love God, mam ekam sharanam vrija. Love me, surrender, that is love. Aham tvam 𝗙𝗲𝗶𝗹𝗀. I will protect you. That God is loving you. It's reciprocal, no? This is the message of Gita. Mahaprabhu says this, Krishna prem pumartho mahan. No? That love is love, to love God and be loved by Him. That is the aim of life. Simply if you love Him, that's not enough. That you love, but He should also like you, no? You can't keep on. You can't say to some girl, or I love you, and she says, I don't love you. Why are you after me? No, I love you. She'll become frustrated, no? So come on, get lost here, no? You see, it should be both ways. So it's not enough that we love. So Krishna says both things. You surrender unto me, and then I will actually develop a relationship with you. So that is the central message of Gita, love. and you forget this, and you do all practices of devotion, you achieve nothing. Nothing in the sense, you achieve some pious credits, that's okay. You become happy, it's nice, it's great, it's fun. But ultimate aim of life, love, we don't get. So you have to always remember, my focus is to love God and be loved by Him. And that is, and how to do that? That is Bhagavad Gita. So how to achieve that platform? How to lead our lives so that God starts loving us and we start loving Him. What to do? Now what to do? That is all Bhagavad Gita all about, 18 chapters. And that in one word is called devotion. Bhakti. Bhakti. So bhakti is not just finishing your rounds. That's a part of process. But that's not the process. Bhakti is full package. It's to do with your life. It's not to do with your some ritualistic chanting. That's not the idea. So it's not just chanting, finishing your rounds. It's not just doing this program. Or it's not just only worshipping. It is to do with training your mind, thoughts and soul, and leading your life in a way so that God starts liking you. That is devotion. So in that, chanting is included, because Krishna likes if you chant His name. Worship is included and programs are included. But we should not think that if we just do this and whatever we want we can do, then it doesn't happen like that, no? So if you give a gift to your girlfriend, one rose. Anybody gives now rose? No, nobody gives. Who gives rose? So what do you want to give to your girlfriend? You can tell. What do you want to give?
Rose and apple.
Maybe you can take her to New York, just to roam. Okay, some trip. So if you give that, okay, you do that. Take her to New York. Just roam about. Come back to Columbus. And then next day you say, well, and then she asks, take me to movie. Well, forget it, no movies. And then third day you tell, you're nonsense, come on. And then fourth day you tell, let's again go to New York. What she's going to do? So you see the point? You understand my point? What do you understand?
It's not just doing one thing.
Yes. If you chant, you finish your rounds and you're doing all kind of nonsense afterwards, God doesn't like you. He not like you. He can appreciate you. You're chanting my names. But devotion is not just appreciation and worship. These are very different things. Worship is very different. Indians do worship. Puja. We are talking about love. That's a path. This is path of love. This is not path of worship. I was talking morning. So love demands. Love is demanding. Is it? It demands. Worship doesn't demand. Worship you can do some time. Set a time, do it. But love demands. No, your wife demands. Is it? Is it? Am I right or not? Somebody's wife are sitting here, so you can't say yes.
Even kids.
Kids.
Kids are even more, because
Yeah.
they don't know the definition of love, but it's so natural.
But it's natural, yeah. So they demand. And if kids don't demand, then you might think there's something wrong. What's happened to them? They're not asking anything. They've gone mad. So then it doesn't show love. So love is demanding. So Krishna demands from us. If you're on this path of love, it's not demanding out of force. It's out of love. So he demands that you have to lead a life in such a way, and that is called devotion, and that is why we have rules and regulations in devotion. Because rules regulations are not rules regulations. Don't see rules regulations as impositions. You understand? Okay, get up in the morning, do aarti, chant, sit like this, eat like this. And that's why Indians, Indian youths, we can use this, but they get pissed off, What's happening? This is complete nonsense. They're trying to impose things, do this, to hell with this. But that's not the point. Rules, regulations, you have to see rules, regulations as a demand from God out of love. Then you'll be able to follow it. Just like a child demands. So Krishna asks, please get up in the morning. And devotee knows, he's asking out of love, I must do it. You see, it's a different thing, no? And that Gita is teaching. So Gita is going deeper. Gita is very deep. It's not just, you can't just read and understand. It's impossible. So that is devotion. That is rules and regulations in devotion. And all rules and regulations can be divided into 3 parts. That is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Yeah. You heard this before? But you didn't understand this, no? So, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So, within devotion, you have so many rules, regulations. And you divide these rules, regulations into 3 categories. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. You understand? So, Bhakti, so we don't say devotion is Bhakti Yoga only. Devotion is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, that's also devotion. So we have 3 categories. So Karma Yoga will teach you those rules which you have to apply at social level. I told you religion means duty. So what is God demanding from you at social level? You have to live in society. You can't just go to mountains now. So what is a manual for how do you interact with people? How much you interact? How much you don't interact? In what way you should interact so that they don't feel you don't want to interact. That's also important. if you start saying, I don't want your nonsense, then that's the funny thing. So that's Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga are those rules which is favorable to understanding love. So the part of devotion at the level of society. You getting my point? So Karma Yoga is not that do your duty and forget result. And we are not practicing Karma Yoga, we are practicing Bhakti Yoga. It's not like that. At least Prabhupada doesn't define like that. Prabhupada takes Karma Yoga as a devotion. You have read this? You have read in Purports? No, he defines Karma Yoga as action in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada doesn't say Karma Yoga is different. Here Bhakti Yogi. It's not this. That is why this is Bhagavad Gita as it is. Because most of the Gita which you will read, they will like to say Karma Yoga is for ordinary man, Bhakti Yoga is for saint, Jnana Yoga is for Hatha Yogis. So you decide what kind of yogi you want to be, and based on your decision we'll charge you. That's the point. That's what happens, it's all. Or some people say, so if you go to some mission, they'll say in morning we practice Bhakti Yoga, in afternoon we practice Jnana Yoga, in evening we practice Karma Yoga. Frankly, it's like that. I met many people. So, but that's not Gita. Because it doesn't make sense. If you split Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, then you know what you're saying? You're saying Krishna is mad. Because in one conversation, he's trying to say 3 things. That doesn't happen, no? This is a continuous conversation. And if you're conversing with somebody, you have a theme. No? You don't say many themes, no? Just like I'm talking to you. Suddenly if I start speaking, okay, Bhagavad is so nice, it's so good. So what is happening in Trader Joe's? Just tell me. And then next moment I say, but you know what? I left my laptop. Suddenly. And then what do you conclude with that? You will say he's mad. No. So there has to be a theme, no? He is God. He's not a child. So there's a theme, and theme is love, theme is devotion. So you have to connect everything to devotion. Prabhupada does that. If you read. So Karma Yoga, those rules of devotion which are relating to karma. Karma means action at the level of society. That's what Prabhupada does in this book. That is the speciality of this book. So now let me ask you a question. What is Jnana Yoga? So Karma Yoga, Prabhupada says action in Krishna consciousness. Somebody asks you what is Karma Yoga, Prabhupada says action in Krishna consciousness. 5th chapter's name is action in Krishna consciousness. No? So okay, so what is Jnana Yoga?
Knowledge of Krishna.
Action at the
Okay,
level
good.
of knowledge.
Good. Jnana Yoga is taking those rules and regulations which will help you to understand knowledge of Krishna. For example, there's a rule, read Bhagavad Gita daily. Okay. There's a rule, come and do program, congregate together. These are rules, no? So it helps you to get knowledge. An example of Karma Yoga? What's the example of Karma?
Anything what you do to serve Krishna. Means
Okay.
any action you do.
Okay. Any rule.
Rule.
Any rule, can you say?
Get up in the morning, chant 16 rounds.
Okay, yeah. Okay, fine. Get up in the morning. That's one. Or maybe do actions and don't worry about. Not worry, but do actions. Give results. Give results to Krishna. That's one rule, which will help you to navigate in society. Okay.
Activities whether you are comfortable or not.
Yeah, fine. Or like Prabhupada gives an example, you have to cook in summers for Krishna, even in spite of it's hot. So those are rules. That's one example of karma. Okay. Now what is Bhakti Yoga? What rules Bhakti Yoga is telling us? Any example?
Offer the fruit to the
Okay, wait, not example. What do you mean by Bhakti Yoga?
love.
Okay, Bhakti Yoga are those rules and regulations which will help you to develop love for Krishna. Okay. So Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga are favorable to the love, and Bhakti Yoga is a process which will help you to develop love. No? So there are 3 rules and regulations. Karma Yoga is at the platform of body, rules, regulations. Jnana Yoga is at the platform of intellect, and Bhakti Yoga is at the level of rules and regulations at the level of soul. So we are soul, mind and body, 3 things, that's all. So rules for all these 3 things, so that you can lead your life properly, so that you can love God and you are being loved by God. This is Bhagavad Gita. So Karma Yoga is first 6 chapters, Bhakti Yoga is, you know this, no? Middle 6, and Jnana Yoga is last. This is a general division, but you can't actually, but it's a general division which acharyas speak. So that is all Bhagavad Gita about. So we are Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi or Bhakti Yogi? Now what do you answer?
Morning karma.
Karma yogi.
So what are we? Can you answer this question?
I think there are 24 chapters, then it would have been a good division, I think.
So what do you think? What do you answer? Now, generally you might have heard Karma Yoga leads to Jnana Yoga, Jnana Yoga leads to Bhakti Yoga. You might have heard this ladder, no? That's a traditional understanding. That is also correct. But Prabhupada doesn't translate this book like that. If you read properly, Prabhupada takes Jnana Yoga as a devotion. You read, you go and read. You have read 3rd chapter till 3rd chapter, no? Prabhupada always defines karma as action in Krishna consciousness. Do something for Krishna, always like that. So Prabhupada does a different thing. And this is in translation in line of our Vaishnava acharyas. So then who are we? Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga? So what do you say?
Bhakti.
Now, Bhakti Yogi, Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi. So
Everything is connected to love.
yeah. So who are we? We are, you can say all 3. combined, all three combined, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or you can simply say we are Vaishnava, devotees of Lord. So Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga are not different. See, they are not different. You understand, they are not different. They are simply categories of rules and regulations at different levels within devotion to help you to practice devotion properly. You getting my point? Because if you don't follow rules at the level of body and society, you get frustrated, then you will not be able to practice devotion properly. So these are all rules and regulations of devotions, and some are favorable to help develop love for. So who are we? We are lovers of God, that we can say. Or some people like to say Bhakti Yoga. Some people like to say we are Bhakti Yogi. But then you have to qualify that statement that Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga are then subsets of Bhakti Yoga. You understand? Subset? Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga are favorable for Bhakti Yoga. You get my point? So we have to practice all three together. So that's see, it's a different take, no? Bhagavad is different. It's different. Okay, so that is so now you practice rules and regulations, and you're following, you're trying to develop love. So what is the aim of life? Like, okay, fine, aim is love, there's a practice, but before aim and practice, you should need to know, why should I practice? That's a big question, no? So that answer of why we should do all these things, why love should be the aim of life, it's a valid question, no? Is it? Okay, you tell everything, but why? That is answered in second chapter. Second chapter, Krishna is talking about everything. And he is answering this question, why you should do this. Because if you don't understand why, then you will not do anything. You will say, that's nice, but why? What's the point of all these things? Why should I love God? Why?
We are part and parcel of the world.
Yeah, so you need this knowledge. So that is second chapter, why you should do that. And that is where second chapter begins with your identity. Who are you? You see. So this question, who are you? This knowledge of soul. Okay, what is the first verse of Bhagavad Gita? No. Wrong. What's the first verse? You don't know? You have read Gita?
It's in 2.7.
What's that?
Arjuna started surrendering to Krishna.
No. But you're getting near, but no.
Yeah, probably the next 2.7, 2.8, Arjuna read that, and Krishna started giving the
Okay.
knowledge. Started giving.
Yeah, So Krishna started giving the knowledge in 2.11.
Yeah.
2.11 actually he condemns him. Ashochenan vashochastvam pragyapadam bhashase. And then 2.12 he starts giving this knowledge. No? Is it? It's like that? Or I have to check? Should I see, or you're absolutely convinced about that fact? Okay. So yeah, 2.11 he condemns, 2.12 he begins. So Bhagavad Gita starts with 2.11 actually. If anybody asks you a question, where does Bhagavad Gita begins, you should say because Krishna starts giving Gita is message of God, and it begins from 2.11. It doesn't begin with everything else is a story by Sanjay. No, that's not Gita. That's a preamble, pre-story. So you know what? If you go to South India and if you meet some scholar, not this useless scholars who write some book, and if you meet suppose if you meet Shankara Math, or some traditional Vaishnavas, and if they ask you what is the first verse of Bhagavad Gita, and if you say Dharma Kshetre, Kuru Kshetre, they will ask your assistant, give them laddu, Ashirvadam. No discussion. We don't want to discuss with you. You're a fool. You might say, I have read Bhagavad Gita, I have done course, I topped. You don't understand. So, why I am telling you this? Not to tell you that you are all fools. I am also a fool. But the point is, read this book nicely. Read this 1,000 times. 10,000 times. You will yourself understand what's happening here. This book is Krishna himself. It is not a book. Krishna's words and Krishna is same. The more you spend time with this book, with Krishna, the more he will reveal himself to you. So you have to read it. You have to read it. Even though you might think you understand this, but don't fall into this trap. You understand this book. Always think, I don't understand. With this mentality you approach. I don't understand. I have to understand. Krishna, please reveal your knowledge to me. It seems simple. This verse, Dehino Simnathadehe, simple verse, no? As embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age. We have read this, no? The soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered. Simple, I have read this. Why to read it again? Let's have prasadam. No. It doesn't go like that. You have to read it, you have to read it, you have to pray. It's not intellect. You have to pray, Krishna, I know your words are infinite. His words has to be infinite. No, it's not. He's infinite. So there's a depth here, but you have to be expert to go into the depth, take out the meaning. So you might need help of devotees. That's another thing. Automatically it doesn't happen. But if you're sincere, Krishna will give you association of good devotees. No. So that is the first. So second chapter, that's why Krishna begins with the knowledge of soul. Who are you? Because if you don't understand who are you, you will not do anything. Why should I do? So second chapter is related to final goal, love. You see the connection? The second chapter is actually related to 𝗙𝗲𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗀 parityaja. Otherwise you don't reach there. You still have question, why? Why should I surrender? What's a big point in that? So Krishna first says, who are you? Who are we? No, before that. Soul. Separate from this body. Do you know that? You know?
I haven't realized.
Nobody knows. You.
We have knowledge.
Yeah. You think you know, but nobody knows here. Nobody realizes that you're not this body. When you see your hand, you don't think this is not my hand. You don't think like that. How many times you have thought?
There is a difference, me and mine. So that's why it is my hand. But who is me? Me is not me.
No. What I'm asking is, you think this in class. After that, you don't think like that. You don't think. Nobody thinks. Are we cheating ourselves?
Yes.
Perhaps. Are we thinking we are devotees, but we are not? Perhaps. You have to think in that line, otherwise whole life you can cheat yourself, not understand Gita. You know, I was just coming from Cincinnati to Columbus today. So this person I was coming, he was telling that in Cincinnati there was a person who used to discuss Gita. A doctor. He was having good knowledge, and he used to discuss. So this person who was sitting with me, he used to attend his classes, and he was good fan of Gita. So he was discussing Gita daily for 4 years. They discussed Gita, every verse. Like people used to come, but then one day he got a call, and his son was 25 years old in Chicago. He was found dead in parking lot. Just dead. His throat was slit. And so what happened is, still he continued Gita class. But his wife, whenever that class used to happen, they used to start reading Gita and body, and she used to weep. Of course, she was absolutely crashed. Only son, 24 years old, and killed, and you can't even find who killed him. So she was weeping every time. So they had to stop this program because she started weeping. What to do? Then after 6 months, they had a program in a park. All these people went, and then at that time, everybody was sharing their realizations. So this lady told, see, my husband have been reading Gita since the whole life. I have also been reading Gita with him, but he understood and I never understood, even the first lesson. that I am not this body, nobody is related to me. Because I was affected. But he was not affected. He could overcome it. Of course, for some time you are affected, no, because it's natural. But he could overcome in 2 weeks. That's okay. He was normal. That's what. So this might happen to all of us. At the end of life, you're reading but you never understood. So that's how you should read this book. You should never assume you understand. You can't. It's not possible to understand this. You have to realize this. You have to practice this. So that's the first teaching. Who am I? I am spirit, soul. But that's not the full address. Who are you? If you say I am male, somebody asks, who are you? I am a man. You're mad or what? It's a mad answer, no? Somebody asks, who are you? I am man. From which planet have you come? So if you say, who are you? I am soul. It's a mad answer. It's madness to say like that. You have to give full description. Who am I? So that's why Krishna says in 2nd chapter, he brings the point of God, right in 2nd chapter. He brings that. Which verse? You read 2nd chapter, okay. Starts talking about himself. Which verse? Let's check. Okay. You have read this book, no? Why do you go to 3rd chapter if you don't understand 2nd chapter? I'm joking around.
Even we don't expect in the first go to understand everything. Maybe 100 more times we will go, so at least we will touch and come back. Because even if we are going to stuck in one chapter or in one verse.
My style is, if you don't understand, we are going to proceed. We are not going to proceed. Stop eating, stop sleeping. Understand it or die. That's the enthusiasm you should have. I'm not saying you should do that.
That's why Prabhuji means when you come or Prabhujis come, we generally get knowledge from them. So
that's okay. That's fine.
That.
So, because Krishna speaks about himself in 2nd chapter also. Anyway, you can go and read that, and then he says soul is part and parcel of me. That's the full address. So then we understand why we have to love him. Actually, there's no answer to this question, because if I ask you why do you have to love your mother, what do you say?
It's natural.
You can ask why. Is this a good question? No, it's not a good question, but nevertheless it's a question for us, because we have been disconnected from God for a long time. That's why we need to know we are soul, His Supreme Spirit, we are connected to Him, we have to love Him. But when you practice and you develop love, then this question will become irrelevant. Why you have to love Him? Come on, it's absurd. Krishna is mine, I am Krishna's, and you love Him. That's all. No, you understand? So that is why this is 2nd chapter, and then Krishna develops a theme of Bhagavad Gita, and then you read rules and regulations, karma, bhakti, jnana, and he leads you to love. So this seems like a small book, but it's not small. So there's an example of sandalwood. You know sandalwood? The more you rub sandalwood, more there is smell. So this should be a wife, not that. No wife. This is our wife, this book. And if you read properly, then you'll be able to also explain it properly to others. Otherwise, you'll explain it as like theoretical, no? Then nobody's going to get convinced. Then you're doing disservice to this book. When people will say, Bhagavad Gita is useless, I heard it from somebody, and what is this, what's happening? Then it becomes a disservice. So to serve God, it is your duty, it is an expression of love to understand this book, to serve Him properly. So my request is, read this book. And ISKCON Nobody reads books. Sorry to say this, but it's like that. Things have become a little institutionalized. ISKCON is a great institution. We are belonging to them. But the point is, Prabhupada also complained in his end of days, my devotees are not reading my books. What we do? We do kirtan, prasad, chi chi, chu chu, ha ha, hi hi, whatever you want to do, and then go back. No reading book, no reading book. Reading, you can read together, but how much you're reading alone? That's the point. No, that Krishna counts. When you are alone, then your true nature is out. Then you are real you. No, in the sense, no, not real. Matlab, real you is soul, but you are in a true picture. When you are alone, and then is a test. What do you want to do? Now everybody can read Bhagavad and be happy. When you are alone, then you will think, oh my God, internet. Let's see what's happening. And then that's a problem. So, please read this book properly. And read every line. Prabhupada says, read my books as a law book. Law book. So, law book means you have to remember every line properly, you have to realize it. Probably you have to understand it scientifically. You have to explain scientifically. Spread this. Don't just distribute this only. Distribute this book. Distribute the knowledge of this book. That's the proper service. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita ki Jai.